To talk more about the Davos Forum in Switzerland, we have with us today Christian Greger from the German Institute of Economic Research in Berlin. Professor Oded Shenkar from Ohio State University joins us from Columbus, Ohio. He is the author of Copycats, How Smart Companies Use Imitation to Gain a Strategic Advantage. And here in Beijing, we have Cao Can, CEO of Shenya Capital. Welcome to our program, gentlemen. Even though the three of you have not been to Davos, but we would really like to get your opinions about exactly what the topics being discussed in Davos, whether have an impact in the world or not. I want to let us take a look at some of the recent survey conducted by the Davos. For example, take a look at this.
Business confidence has fallen for a third year in a row. Just 36% of business leaders are very confident of their company's growth prospects for the year ahead, in comparison with 40% last year and 48% the year before that. Among the 68 countries surveyed, the most confident was Russia, where 66% of CEOs are very confident of growth in 2013, while the least confident at only 6% is South Korea.
What do you think, gentlemen, is the major blocks on the road that is preventing the economy from picking up and that is preventing all of these companies from expressing their ultimate confidence? Mr. Greger.
It is surely the crisis in industrial countries. The government debt crisis has relieved in the euro area. The macroeconomic environment has become better in recent months, even in the UK. The fiscal compromise has led to a more optimistic scenario regarding the US economy. Emerging markets are often in good condition, like China, not India, of course. And in the euro area, the crisis has relieved. The conditions become better, but still the euro area is in a recession. So again, the most critical impediment for fast growth in the world economy is a possible crisis in the industrialized world with spillover effects to emerging countries.
We take a look at this issue you just mentioned, which is what should be the role of the central bank in stimulating the economy. In the short term, we've already seen some results, quantitative easing in the US and some other countries. But what about in the long term? Should that role be receding or increasing? Is it a very healthy role that the central bank should play? Professor Shenkar.
I believe that the role of the central bank should be receding. I believe that the US central bank, for one, has taken unprecedented steps, has ventured into the unknown. Many of the recent steps that have been undertaken by the US central bank, it remains to be seen what would be the collateral damage out of that. And one of my main concerns right now is that the US central bank, like other central banks, will be taking an active role in launching a so-called currency war, because one of the correlates of the policy of US central bank will be to lower the value of the dollar. I believe that other central banks will try to do the same. So as much as we've heard talks about coordination and interdependency and so forth, I have not heard anything about how we're going to prevent this mutual decline into the abyss going forward.
We want to emphasize the role of the governments, because that's where the World Economic Forum, many of the heads of state met, and also the role of different kinds of economies. For example, Mr. Professor Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, said this on the same day when President Barack Obama was sworn in. Interestingly, it was coincide all at the same time. And here's what he said.
I would say to take again a lead. Of course, we are in a multipolar world. Of course, countries like China, India, and so on play a much bigger role. But at the end, I think what the world expects is that someone if there's a major crisis, takes the lead, and I'm very hopeful that the United States, in the second mandate, will assume its responsibility as the strongest power in the world.
Professor Shenkar, therefore, I have to address that question to you. U.S. will address that responsibility prescribed by Professor Schwab?
I beg to disagree with Professor Schwab, or at least I should say that I don't think that his hope will be met. I think that the United States, at least under the current administration, is actually receding from any global role. I think United States has very significant domestic issue. It will first need to resolve a very fundamental question vis-a-vis its own economic and social model. The United States cannot continue to overspend at the rate of about $1 trillion a year. And until we found how we're going to come up with a better model, and until the United States learns to live within its means, it's not going to happen. And globally speaking, United States is not as big economic power as it used to be. And again, it seems to be, to me, the case that at least under the current administration, it is actually relinquishing some of its global roles. So I'm not sure that there is a leader out there, nor do I think that this is the solution to the world problems.
And Mr. Chao, before we go, I want to address this question to you. China, of course, avoided the hard landing as some predicted last year. However, the road ahead is still unclear, particularly with what Professor Shenkar said about the United States and Mr. Dreger said about the EU. What is China's plan for the new year, particularly at a time when you see others are not playing that active role as one would like?
Well, I think China should play a more active role in constructing a new financial world order. You know, in the past, the U.S. has been served as the center of the world financial system with dollar as the reserve currency. But I think the Chinese leaders have come to realize that the U.S. tends to abuse this privilege. And if the world system still is not reformed, then China has to be forced to continue to buy U.S. dollars and U.S. treasuries and rely on the exports to the U.S.
But as you may know, that is not being done in 1 day or 1 month or 1 year.
And that's why we are trying to internationalize the RMB, right? We try to do currency swaps with a host of countries like Brazil, India, South Korea. So these are the steps that the Chinese government are taking to tackle this global imbalance. And we're not out of the woods because today there's a big debate between government stimulus and austerity.
We want to thank the three of you for participating in our program. Thank you, Mr. Dreger, Professor Shenkar, and Mr. Chao. Thank you very much.